Welcome to Wake Up Shake Up by Cutshort, where we will be discussing all things related to building careers in tech. This is episode
Two, is now a good time to switch jobs? We have recently heard about layoffs, funding winter, looming recession, and many changes that are happening in the tech climate. So it seems like the tech world is just volatile, unstable. But on the other hand, like we at Cutshort itself have seen thousands and thousands of jobs that recruiters are hiring. So there's clearly two opposing images that the people are seeing. So we would really love to know what is the reality and whether the tech industry is on its decline or not. Today, we will be having Arjun Prakash, who's the founder of an organization called Pivot, which focuses on making career changes and career switches happen for people, irrespective of their industry. And the other speaker that we have is Shiv Kumar Guram. He is SD3 recruiter for Amazon, and he's also a mentor and advisor at Sourcing Express. On that note, we can get started. And the first part of this conversation is to really understand the what and the why of job switching. So, my first question to both of you is what are the different types of job shifts that you've seen?
I think the answer to that is fairly straightforward. A lot of the job shifts that we have seen over the last couple of years are primarily related to two reasons. The number one reason that we have seen is more pay related, where people are moving from one company to another because they are getting a better rewards opportunity. Usually that happens and it sinks at the time when the candidate is, let's say, getting married or having kids, or we see that people have this realization that they want to be financially secure and be able to afford the things that they would like to buy and experience in their life. So there are a lot of job changes that do happen based on the pay factor. Apart from pay, there's a broad bucket that we could use as a category, which is just overall culture fit between the candidate and the organization. That's the other big reason for job shift that we have seen, where either a misalignment between the way work gets done at the organization and how the professional wants to work, could be a misalignment in the team and peers wavelength versus the candidates. Yeah. Over to you, Shiv Kumar.
I would say not just the misalignment, but also there are some people who are more aspirant or who are eager or who just wanted to just go out of their comfort zone and try something out new. Now, let's say if in the current role, and job switch not necessarily means that these are the people who are changing the companies. It could happen in within internal org itself. Like you see sometimes that in a big tech, people switch jobs internally. That too, the domains are completely different. They're in a customer service, but they're coming into the recruitment because they're excited about the recruitment. Some people are switching from full stack to back end. Some people are switching from back end to front end. So all the switches are happening. The reason because it's more of a personal interest, what they're looking out for and how they're aligning their personal interest for their future career. It depends on their aspirations.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think we definitely would love to get into decoding this idea of like on the basis of aspirations, interests, hobbies, passion. I think that has been, especially in the millennial generation, the longest reigning reason for anything to do in their careers. But my next question is a little bit related to this idea of actually taking the decision and switching jobs. Recently, we've seen a lot of job switching that even happens on a 3 month scale or a 6 months. People are hopping jobs. They are not really staying. So, what have you seen that have been like the reason for not staying?
This is a very good question. What's happening a little bit in the market right now is that there's a herd mentality, right? When you see your peers around you making a job switch and getting a better pay package or having a better career experience overall by working at another company, at least that seeds an idea in your head, if nothing else, right? So let's say when you started at a certain firm, you didn't really know much about the professional environment. So you took the best offer that was made as a fresher. Now you have spent, let's say, 5 years at that firm and you realize, okay, most of your peers are moving out. Does it make sense for you to stay? Even if you are enjoying. So then you start looking at other indicators. Are you still stimulated by the work that you're doing? Are you still jiving with the team? Are you still getting some growth opportunities? Or are you feeling like stagnated? You're feeling more and more uninterested in your work, or there's a toxic environment around you.
Thank you, Arjun. Shiv Kumar, would love to hear from you.
Awesome. So these are the kind of a candidates multiple times I came across. So most of the times from this kind of set of candidates, what I get to hear is like, no, Shiv, it's not at all about the pay or neither a brand. But then I got interviewed with A team, but by the time I got placed in a B team where I was expecting this kind of a work, this kind of a project, this kind of a role. Unfortunately, I got into something else, which I'm not really excited about.
I think Shiv Kumar, you gave a great example. The other thing that we have seen is actually quite common is the role and responsibilities that are actually described at the time of hiring versus what the day to day entails once the person joins. So, a lot of times, let's say you pitch your candidate using those high fancy ideas. But then when they actually join, they realize, okay, we are at least a year out from developing the new product. And for the first year, just going to work really on testing and just quality QA and those kind of things. So even if that's the case, I think companies can always benefit from setting the right expectations and being very clear in their communication, because candidates do leave if they don't find the job to be aligned with their expectations.
Exactly. Even like most of the times, if you look at in a holistic point of view, most of the JDs are basically copy pasted. It's not team aligned, which has been decided or which has been designed by hiring manager. Let's say if I get a rec from the hiring manager, what as a recruiter I should be doing? I'll be sitting with the hiring manager, understanding the scope of role, what is the current stage that we are currently into, and what is that we are looking out for, so that we can show this a growth part to the candidate while we pitch them. And when these kind of a candidate, first they hear from us, then second again they hear from the hiring manager, and third when they again come and they see the reality what's happening. If it is all aligning, they're all excited because the expectations was set right from the first call. But if this rhythm goes off, really dissatisfying then.
I think really interesting points from both of you. I think just knowing what the candidate experiences joining a new company and then what probably goes wrong. I think my follow up question is actually for Shiv Kumar. I would love to know the other side of this. Like you might have even onboarded candidates who actually just finished a 3 month stint at some company and then have joined. So has there been an impact on a professional's growth because of frequent job switching?
Yeah, definitely that happens because again, it depends on the choices what the person is making. Now, let's say we can definitely give a excuse for a person who says that the reason I'm switching for a job because my startup funding is stopped and we're just laying it off. So that's pretty genuine reason. Consistently switching, definitely it affects for a person on a longer run, but unless they do not have a justified points for every switch. So justification is also most important thing. What were their need? What were their ask? What did they deliver? And why did that happen?
Got it. So, on that note, I think moving to the next part is how do you know now is the time that I need to switch and it's a justified situation that I'm in to look for a new job and make that change? What are those conditions, factors that anyone needs to think about when they are deciding to put in their papers?
Sure, I can take this one first. In terms of how people should think about their job switches from a long term career perspective, I would say is really understanding what your key priorities are, at least for the next few years. Let's say at least like 5 to 10 years. What that means is you actually get informed by everything that's happening around you. You don't shut out the world. You still continue to see what your peers are doing, what kind of companies are there, and what offers they are making. That's all good information to have, but it shouldn't be the driving factor. The driving factor is what are your priorities? How do you decide what your priorities are? I mean, a lot of times people just think, okay, rapid career growth, high pay, that's all I want. True. But it can really vary also depending on overall stage of life that you're at. For somebody, let's say, who is in the mid to late 20s, you have a lot of time to focus on work. I think you should look at the best learning and growth opportunities out there for yourself. And you need to understand how you can or how you want to grow exactly. For example, do you want to become more and more of a specialist in your field, or do you want to gain a more diverse skill set? Do you want to learn a new tech stack, new programming language, or you want to keep working within the same one and be known as the go-to person for that? So you have to do a deep dive based on what growth means to you. Apart from that, there could be other priorities as well, right? Let's say you're in your early 30s, you have just gotten married or planning to start a family. Perhaps you are looking for certain work-life balance. So again, that is something that you are not going to look at what the rest of the folks are doing. You have to understand your own needs in life and make a decision based on that. So I would say knowing your why is definitely important, but to translate it into practical terms, come up with the priorities that make most sense for you, and then try to identify the best opportunities that sync up with those priorities.
Thank you so much, Arjun. I think that really helped in codifying it a little bit in making this type of decision. On that note, I think I would love to move to the next question, which is now that we know, okay, when to really move and when to really make that job switch, I think let's bring this into the current climate, right? In the current times that we are in, we have heard of layoffs, funding crunch, and just every week there has been some news or the other about the tech industry like really falling apart. But in reality, we at Cutshort have seen hiring like booming over the last few months, in fact. So would love to know now in this type of condition when professionals are seeing this all around them, hearing about a coming recession is now a good time. And how do they make this choice without putting themselves at risk or without thinking that they are at risk?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that's on everybody's mind today. So, in terms of any economic situation which is not favorable for the candidates, for the employees, obviously you have to generally be a little more risk averse compared to risk taking. You want to make sure that you're switching on your survival mode for different parameters, whether it's you're retaining your job, so having a secure job that is not going to be made redundant or you're not going to be laid off anytime soon. It could be in financial terms so that you have enough financial savings for the foreseeable future. It could just be keeping your overall job profile, your career secure. So that is something that definitely people have to do currently, given the amount of layoffs that are happening. But that's again a very generalized statement. So I don't think it necessarily applies to everybody. Like even within the tech world, right? There are certain sectors which have undergone very severe transition over the last 2 years because of the pandemic. I mean, look at some of the agri tech companies that have raised massive rounds despite funding window, right? And they're still hiring. So if you're a candidate who aspires to achieve a better role or looking for a better opportunity, you really have to understand which opportunities are still out there that make sense for you, whether you should apply for those rather than just taking a blanket call that because the economy is bad, I'm not going to move at all.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Arjun. Shiv, would you like to take this again?
See, time is something for them, we really don't know whether it is right or not. So let's say if there's an opportunity in a market, which I'm really excited about and which is open now, I wanted to apply, but I'm kind of a skeptical given the market situation, which is not really good. Shall I apply it or not? Think twice before applying. One is definitely you need to think in point of a job security also. And the second is, see, recession might be there for the market, but person with the right skill will never have a recession. So person with the right skill is more or less like a soldier who is always ready with the arms, though they are in a job or they are not in a job. I wouldn't say making a choice of not taking a risk versus taking a risk. It's purely depends on one individual. Now, if you want to see how do you identify this is a risk? Okay, let's say now if you're talking to hiring manager and you're asking what is the scope for this particular role, what is the scope for this particular project for the next 1 to 2 years, how is my growth aligned, and how is your particular project positioned in the organization, what's the project priority basically in the organization. If we're seeing the census where project is on a top priority, where just in case the layoff happens tomorrow, our project would be the last project to get impacted because our project is the highest revenue generating project. And this role is really critical. If your hiring manager is not able to give the right answer for such kind of a questions, then I would say think twice. But technically, if someone is giving you the right answer, the right confidence that my project is the last project, in case if something goes wrong to get impacted, you can still go ahead and take a risk. It depends on what project you're getting in.
Yeah, I think these are really, really great answers. This is some really, really great advice. I think one big plus where I definitely resonate with Arjun is yes, there are layoffs happening. There are multiple employees, maybe they're losing their jobs in certain sectors, but there is a flip side to it. There is like mass hiring happening where funding has also reached in like high growth startups, but at the same time, there are other sectors which are growing at this point. So definitely don't lose heart. And something close to what Shiv Kumar said is like the time is very relative, where it doesn't, at some point or the other, there will be a risk involved. But as long as your why is very, very aligned with what the organization is doing, the project that you'll be working on, I think there there is definitely worth taking that risk. So overall, if I were to just summarize, is we need to have courage, we need to know our why, we need to do our research, and then we'll be prepared to make a job switch. And time is least relevant to this equation. On that note, thank you so much, everyone, thank you, Arjun and Shivkumar, for joining in. I think it's been a really, really great and rich discussion.
Thank you for tuning in. That's all from episode 2 of Wake Up Shake Up. See you all on the next episode coming soon.